Welcome back to the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. This week, in this holiday season, we are going through Dante's Leadership Inferno. I thought to celebrate Halloween, we will do on the show what I do at my house, which is look at something truly terrifying, myself. So today, of course, Dante takes a trip through the 9 layers of hell, examining the various moral failings of man, and we will take a look at the 9 layers of help that we need in business. We've already taken a look at the first one, which is leadership limbo. This is life without a mission, life without a person, uh, life without a purpose, where all of we find ourselves and our teammates just wandering through life through a fuzzy haze with no clear direction. The answer to that will take you to my previous episode, but this episode we are looking at a much more intense one. Life driven by uncontrolled passions. Now, for Dante, this is the layer of lust, but for us in business, this is the leader driven by short term gains and uncontrolled passions. So, how do we get out of that? Well, let's take a look at a magic word called priorities. First of all, I've committed a grave sin myself here by calling it priorities. By definition, you can only have one most important thing. You can't have many. Now, each person in your organization will have their own most important thing, but it's actually deeply ironic to have priorities when in fact you can only do one thing at a time. But leaving that aside, priorities are the key to controlling your passions and keeping you focused on the mission. Priorities give you something magical, something critical to understand in the mission. Now, we all know the importance of a mission, of a goal, of a strategic plan. But if you've ever gone hiking, and I spent quite a lot of my high school years hiking, you have to know where you are on the map before you can decide what you need to do next. So priorities take the mission from a theory and they tell you where you physically are on the mission so you can work on the next most important thing, the next priority. Now, execution is great, but execution doesn't count until it's actually done. In fact, this picture is not of my laundry room. If it was my laundry room, there would be plenty of teenage clothes strewn about, hanging, and maybe even stuck to the walls. Getting the laundry to the laundry room doesn't finish the laundry. Putting it in the washer and then the dryer doesn't finish it. It's not finished until you complete the execution and you get it actually put back in your drawers. But it does take a sequence, right? So every plan that we have, every mission that we have to have a clean house, to have clean clothes, takes a process, and we have to know where we are in that process. Otherwise, we can't execute and find that little 4-letter word I call done. That is probably the most feared and disrespected word in our societies. That 4-letter word called done. Okay, so with that, I have something very easy for you. If you'll take your hands like this, make a triangle for yourself, and this is the key to getting it done. At the tip of your fingers, just pretend this is a little compass. That is your goals. The top is your goals. That's the mission we set last time. Then you have two things in the pockets here. You have the list, and you have the actions you need to take to accomplish that. Or put it a slightly different way, you have long-term time. What's coming up next, and what am I working on right now? The number one problem that we have, and that is in the leadership level of help, people can't stay focused on what they should be focused on right now. You need to be working on what you're supposed to do right now, not what you're supposed to work on next, and not what you're supposed to work on tomorrow. If you don't execute what you're working on right now, that laundry is not getting done. So we need to master priorities, and this little hand sign helps us figure that out. Make yourself a list. There is the thing you need to do. That's your long-term goal. There's the next thing you need to do. And then that's it. There's other things on the list, but you can only work the next most important thing. Now, most of the time, that next most important thing is not fun to work on. And that's why we don't work on it. So we make a list and then we choose something from the list that we want to work on. And that's why our things aren't getting done. We are choosing priorities and then starting to work on the fun priority. And that's why the laundry piles up in the laundry room. So how do we decide what's the next most important thing? That's actually pretty easy. You just need to consider how the next thing affects all the other things on the list. Okay, fair enough. It's actually fairly complicated, and this is a full-time task. Hint, hint. This is a full task. This is the task of leadership. So we all started out as an individual contributor and we were probably pretty good at it. And that's how we got where we are today. But the task of leadership has nothing to do with doing the laundry. The task of leadership has to do with making sure the machine is in place, making sure the laundry detergent's in place, making sure that there's laundry hampers, and then telling people the schedule that they get to use to work on the laundry. Doing the laundry and planning for the laundry to get done are two different things. And that's what priorities are. It is your job as the leader to set priorities because the rest of the team is too busy executing, right? If you go back up to it, you own the goals, the thing at the top, you own what's next, and the team owns what we're supposed to be doing right now. Now, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Here's some things to think about. Some things on your list are ordered, right? You can't put on your socks after you put on your shoes. Some things have order, and if you don't take care of them in the right order, you start to lean to one side or the other. Some things can be done in parallel, and this is great if you have a large team. The key here is don't start multiple tasks and don't finish them. Once you start the laundry, finish the laundry before you start something else. You can hire another employee to do another batch of laundry. Somebody can be folding laundry while you're doing laundry. So some things are in parallel, but you have to have somebody dedicated to finishing that task. Again, if you take a look at the priority list, there are things that can be done to make sure that you're actually finishing them. And some things are exclusive. And I think this is actually the most challenging thing as a leader is we like to keep our options open. In fact, strategy is making sure that you have more optionality in the future than you do today. And so we like to keep our options open, but that delays conversations. It delays making a decision because some decisions, once we make them, we're going to attack this market segment instead of this market segment. It means that we're not going to make marketing material for this market segment. It means we're going to choose to make a 30-pound helicopter or a 30,000-pound helicopter instead of a 3,000-pound helicopter. They don't sell to the same market. So we as leaders, this decision is on us. I think a lot of times it's fun to delay the decision or make the decision, pass it off to somebody below us, but it's always our decision to decide when it comes to exclusivity. Are we going left or are we going right? Because if you go down that road and you discover you've made the wrong decision, it is super expensive to undo it, right? So it may sound wise to delay this decision, but that just lumps the whole team up. And now everybody is clogged at the intersection, waiting on the decision to happen. So as you think about your priorities, as you're at that moment of decision, what I want you to do is take a look at your goals. Where are we going? And which of these decisions, left or right, is going to get us there? Take a look at your list and decide how many of these things have to be done in a certain order and how many of them can be farmed out in parallel. And then, and we'll talk about this later, track the metrics of each action to make sure that it's getting to that dreaded curse word, done. One more thing before I get off the show here. Priorities are actually another way of saying no. When you say, this is what I'm going to do, you're saying no to everything else. Every priority that you have is an infinite number of no's. And you can't be a good leader without learning to say no a whole lot. Saying yes is actually saying no to everything else. And that's exclusivity. For instance, Steve Jobs says, I'm more proud of the things that we said no to because it allowed us to focus on the things that we said yes to. And that's why you can only have priority, not priorities. And you need to learn to say no, and people will respect you for it. And you'll have a lot more success. Well, with that, that is today's trip into Dante's Leadership Inferno. I hope that you now have a little more tools to navigate your particular level of help. And if you are like myself, I mean, this is actually my problem. I am definitely a passion-driven person, and I often get driven by short-term gains. Find somebody in your life to hold you accountable to your priorities, and then start executing that list. And remember the priority principle. What are my goals? What's next on the list? And what should I be working on right now? With that, we are out.